Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Berger, and I'm the Theater Operations and Events Manager at Film Forum, an independent, nonprofit four-screen cinema in Manhattan's West Village, now in its 51st year. I'm speaking to you all live from our office on West Houston Street. This is yet another virtual event we are hosting until we can return to live events at the theater. So first and foremost, we wish you all health and happiness at this time. We are very happy to co-present this afternoon's event with the Bellevue Literary Review. This is our second time working with the organization. In case you don't already know, BLR is a literary magazine that publishes poetry, fiction, and nonfiction on the themes of health, illness, and healing, all, of course, relevant to today's subject, the new Norwegian drama Hope. You can learn more at blreview.org. Today's discussion is on Hope, the new feature by Maria Sødahl. Hope is the sort of unflinching drama that manages to make you feel just about every emotion, sometimes all at once, and is, strictly speaking, about a woman in her prime facing mortality. And yet the film also exhilarates the viewer with a sense of what it means to be fully alive. Our guests today, Andrea, Bræin, Hovig, and Stellan Skarsgård, play longtime romantic partners Anja and Thomas, a modern dance choreographer and successful theater director, respectively, with a large blended family in Oslo. When Anja receives a terminal medical diagnosis, the couple is forced to recalibrate their already rocky relationship. You can rent and stream Hope at filmforum.org or visit the theater and see it on the big screen. I'm excited to again welcome our guest moderator today, Danielle Ofri. Danielle is the editor-in-chief of the Bellevue Literary Review. Danielle's writing appears in The New Yorker and The New York Times, and her newest book is titled When We Do Harm, A Doctor Confronts Medical Error. A very special thanks to Danielle for putting this event together. Hi, Danielle.
Hey, great to be back. Thanks so much.
It's great to see you again. Thanks again for being here. I'd love to welcome our first guest today, the star of Hope, Stellan Skarsgård. Stellan has delivered classic performances in numerous international films and television series. Since emerging onto the world cinema stage as Jay Nyman in Lars von Trier's 1996 film Breaking the Waves, Stellan has found tremendous success in such hits as Good Will Hunting, Dancer in the Dark, Pirates of the Caribbean, Mamma Mia, Melancholia, and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, among many others. Hi, Stellan. Welcome.
Hi. Nice to be here.
It's nice to have you. Our next guest is actor Andrea Bræin Hovig. Andrea has established herself as a thoughtful and dynamic actress in both film and television, appearing in films like I Belong, All the Beauty, An Affair, The Birdcatcher, Beware of Children, and Disco. Andrea's performance in Hope earned her the Best Female Lead and Best Actress awards at the 2020 Kinoprisen and Amanda Awards, respectively. Hi, Andrea.
Hello, nice to be here.
Finally, we are very thrilled to welcome the filmmaker of Hope, Maria Sødahl. Maria has amassed critical acclaim for her work on numerous television dramas, documentaries, and short films. Maria made her feature debut with a self-written Limbo in 2010, first premiering at the opening of the Norwegian International Film Festival of the same year. The film garnered 5 Amanda Awards out of a total 10 nominations and earned her the title of Best Director at the 2010 Montreal World Film Festival. Hope marks Maria's return to cinema after a 9-year hiatus. All right, I'm going to leave now, and I'll see you all in about 45 minutes. Have a wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe, and thank you to Film Forum for helping to bring this film to the large audience here in the U.S. It's really a special film. I just have to say, for starters, it's just impressive that you've collectively put this together. And if anyone in this audience today has not yet watched it, I strongly recommend it. Bravo to you all. Andrea, I wanted to start with you. The character that you play, Anja, as Joe mentioned, faces the ultimate existential crisis, the abrupt knowledge that her life is about to be cut short. Can you tell us what it's like to prepare for inhabiting that type of experience?
Well, I didn't prepare too much of the emotional things. I wanted to be unprepared on set, meeting Stellan and the kids, and because I don't think you can prepare without having your co-actors with you. but I prepared a lot about the medical stuff. I did a lot of research there. So I wanted to know as much as possible about the medications that she's on. And I spoke to doctors and nurses. And so that was almost, and of course, I spoke a lot with Maria, and I wanted to know as much as possible about her story as well. But I also wanted to have some secrets, some secret research.
Well, let me ask you about that role. I mean, what is it like to play the character of the person who is directing you? Was that a collaborative experience, or did you just decide this is how I'm going to play the character?
Well, I felt that Maria, she's such a brilliant director, and I knew that she didn't want me to play her. She wanted me to play Anya, and we worked together to make this character as unique and true as possible. So we did that work together. But the script is amazing, and that's Maria's.
Yeah. Well, Maria, let me ask you: when you're casting someone who is essentially playing yourself, what's it like to choose an actor to express your own personal experience, or at least part of it?
It's to find the best actress. Yeah.
Did you have to have something of you in there?
Finding the best actress to do such a part, and then luckily we are not so much physically alike. So it was a pleasure to have someone who makes something on her own, to make a new character. So.
Thank you. And Stellan, I'm sure that dozens and dozens of scripts cross your desk every day or every week. What drew you to this particular role in this film?
Well, I've known Maria for, 20, 30 years or something. And I've made 6 films with her husband, Hans Petter Monan. So I was very much aware of what they had gone through. But she called me and said that she wanted to do a film about it and basically wanted me to play my best friend Hans Petter, which was kind of weird. But I was rather skeptical because there's so many cancer films out there, and I'm not most of the time it's not it's a genre that sort of misses the point usually. But she sent me two pages of a draft. And it was obvious that this was something completely different from all other illness films. It was a film about, it had humor in it. It was full of life. It was actually full of hope as well, even if it was, of course, extremely dramatic. So I said yes to 2 pages.
Well, and how was it to portray a character who really is someone that you know well and is your friend? Did he have any commentary on your portrayal of him?
I promised him I would improve his reputation.
BLR is a literary journal, and so we look at fiction, nonfiction, as well as poetry as different ways of grappling with the deep issues of health, illness, and healing. And we often talk about fiction as the great lie that tells the truth. But fiction and nonfiction are still very distinct. And Maria, the movie Hope is based on your life, but it's not a documentary. Can you tell us how you grappled with issues of fiction versus nonfiction?
Yes, I started out with, trying to fictionalize it in a way, And it took me 6 months, and I just realized that was bullshit. That was the wrong way to enter it. So I from that moment on, I was only looking back on the situations, the experience, through memories, because it was 4 years after the incident. And I think that the truth, if it's fiction or it's based on a true story like this or true experiences, I think that it is fictionalized, although it's very, very honest towards what happened. So when I tried to deal with the scene in a non-fictional way, it rang untrue. So it was, it's difficult to explain, but I just realized I had to work really specifically in the order of the true story, because every story has an inner logic, which is so easy to break, to fall apart if you try to, put in something else. So that was the balance, actually, the challenge.
Thank you. And Andrea, back to you. The character that you play, Anya, really, it's a tour de force, because the character experiences 360 degrees of human experience in just under 2 hours. It's really incredible. And it actually reminded me of when we would do rounds in the hospital. In the same 2 hours, when you see 20 patients, each one of those patients is at the peak drama of their lives. And so we medical staff are sometimes going through the same 360 of emotions in those same 2 hours. And I would sometimes joke to my team that, well, even Meryl Streep couldn't do so many roles in such a short amount of time, although maybe she could, but the rest of us, but at least Meryl Streep, she's got a script, right? The rest of us have to improvise and make it up on the fly. And so I was wondering what it's like as an actor to really ricochet through all those emotional states in this sort of very concentrated period of time.
I just had to dig hard and deep, because we all have these emotions, but some of us, we have the talent to show them or to relive them with an audience or with a director. But I don't have any unique feelings, or we all have this. So I just had to search deep, I guess.
Did you ever feel some kind of whiplash when you go? I mean, there's a scene where there's grief and trauma, and a minute later there's laughter, irony, frustration. How do you incorporate that sort of quick moving, or maybe it's only quick because we see it all stitched together?
Well, I think I'm like that myself. I think I have quite a short distance between tears and laughter. So I think that's quite easy for me as an actor to achieve. But of course, the hardest scenes we did another day than the more laughing scenes. so they were really smart that way. So so I could really concentrate on the really hard days. And
in the movie, your character has to take some steroids and medications to decrease the swelling of the tumor. And of course, steroids make people ricochet even more through emotions. And boy, you did that well. Plus, you were famished. You were eating all the time. Was that hard to do, to keep eating and eating?
I practiced before shooting. We have this Norwegian dish, which is porridge of sour cream. It's the heaviest dish on earth. So I practiced with eating a lot of sour cream porridge, which is almost a bizarre dish. But I thought that if I can eat this, I can do anything.
Okay. And did you gain 10 pounds over the course of the movie?
No, because we had 35 days, so I couldn't gain 30 pounds and lose them. So I had to use my own body as it is.
Stellan, your character, Tomas, is cast into an extremely uncomfortable corner, suddenly thrust into the role of being the loving supporter when love perhaps isn't actually there. And what was that like for you as an actor?
Well, it's I have some experience of it, because my former wife, she experienced cancer. She survived, but it was being a husband to a cancer patient is not an easy thing, because the cancer don't let you in. You cannot participate. You cannot be there for them. You try to desperately. You're trying to solve everything practical, because that's the only thing you can do. But you can never share the experience. You can be present, and that's all. And my role is, the film is about Andrea's role, and my role is, if you ever had a supporting actor, that's me. I've been supporting her through this.
But I think you bring a good point. I think that the spouse or the caregiver, often is in that supporting role, which is very frustrating because you can't actually take away anyone's pain. You can't actually relieve them. You can only sort of be on the side. And boy, but especially with your character in this movie that does not have the smoothest relationship with your partner, that's even more challenging.
Yeah, I mean, it's there is a lot of love there, but it has gone stale. They haven't sort of nourished it for a couple of years, and they've lived their separate lives. And that is, I mean, anybody who is working hard can recognize that when you drift apart, whether you like it or not. So it's a very interesting psychological journey. But my road for me as an actor, it was basically just looking at Andrea, see what she was coming up with, and whatever she was doing, I just had to try to react to it and try to help her. But you stretch out your arms, but then she's already somewhere else. It's that's the feeling you have.
But I think that it does actually portray the role of a partner, in dealing with a serious illness. And I think this is one of the things that made this movie, as you mentioned, quite different from the typical, quote, cancer movie, that the relationship was not perfect and people weren't ideal, which it really does make it feel realistic. And
very few of us are ideal.
Yes. Maria, I wanted to ask you about working with the cinematographer, Manuel Alberto Claro. Very interesting way of filming the movie. And can you talk about how he came to the film and why you chose him?
He and I worked on my first movie. So, having been away from film production for all those years, it felt very important that he was the one who was going to join this project. Also because I was a bit insecure how strong I would be, just like for, how many hours I could work or whatever. But that's more the practical stuff. But he I think he has a way of making poetry without, putting too much glacier on, and he looks for the interesting things happening in the faces of people. So he's, I can trust him very well. And, when you start shooting, that if he does something else, apart from what we have sort of decided to do, I know he's right because he can see what's happening. So you never miss out of gold with him.
And I noticed that except for one part, the film does not have a musical soundtrack. And I think for the typical viewer, we don't often notice the musical soundtrack until it's not there. And the absence of music gives this film somewhat of a documentary-like feel, but of course it's not a documentary. But there is one key moment at the end during the wedding where music does play a role and feels cinematic. And now maybe you could talk about your choice to incorporate music or not.
I knew very early at an early stage that I didn't want to have a score because I wanted a sentimental movie, and I knew that it was so much drama, so how to obtain this was not using it. But that doesn't say that we're not using music. We are using lots of music, but it's source music, so it's not upfront. But we actually use quite a lot of music. And it's also in the beginning of the movie. It's an opera which is used, which is also becomes source, or starts as source and ends as score. As for the wedding scene, it's definitely a score which has meaning, and that's music which was actually played out in the real wedding from the original situation. And it's really on the edge of being much too much on the nose in the lyrics and stuff. So both Andrea and Stellan thought it was horrible that I had chosen that one. And I just said, you're not that director, I'm going to tell you it's going to work, Yeah, so it was, in a very unsentimental movie like this, here I was generous. Yeah.
I was intrigued that the movie, has so many children, and not just as backdrop characters, but the central conflict of one of the central conflicts is how do the parents relate this difficult news to the children? And Andrea, can you talk a little bit about working with so many young actors? What was that like?
Oh, they were so lovely, all of them. I fell in love with each and one of them, and I felt that I had a different relationship with all 6 of them, as you have to your own kids. And I learned to know what made them laugh, what made them cry, not cry, but I really learned to know them. And we spent 3 weeks in Sweden together, and we were at this trip before she started shooting. We had this weekend with Maria and the casting director and me and the kids, which was a really important weekend. And they were so generous with their own family stories, what kind of family they all came from. And they were so generous towards us that I felt that I could be generous with them. They were lovely to work with, all 6 of them, really.
Thanks. And Stellan, you mentioned, that your former wife had cancer, so you have dealt with that, pre-movie. You also have a number of children. And do you take your life experiences into your role, or are they completely separate?
No, I mean, you are the clay you're working with. So whatever life does to you, it becomes a part of your working material. Of course, it's very, very, very rarely I sort of try to copy things from my life, but I'm changed by my life, and I'm changed as an actor by my life.
Yeah, I suppose there's no way around that. A couple of years ago, BLR published an essay entitled Canine Cardiology. And the author, her name is Deborah Thompson, is bringing her dying Cocker Spaniel to the veterinary hospital. But she's also, her husband has passed away from cancer. And so she's grappling with both of these things. And she writes that during her spouse's illness, she had to learn to, quote, immunize myself to both hopes and fears. Hope is the bigger danger. Fear is merely exhausting. And Maria, I wonder if you could comment either as a patient or as a filmmaker, was hope the bigger danger for you?
I think that's a difficult question to answer, actually, because I think it changes in the different stages of such a story. First of all, I would say that, dying is a very lonely matter, knowing that you're going to die. So I think that in one stage, I tried not to have hope because I had so little time left. So I had to use all my energy in how to spend this time and how little and how much I could do towards my children. And that was crucial. It was my only almost focus, So at the moment when I suddenly realized that maybe I would have more time, then hope became very essential to, however big. So I think that, hope as something dealing with life in an unrealistic way is not necessarily a good thing.
And now
but I think that hope is totally crucial to survive. So it's a delicate question.
Well, Anya, maybe you could talk about the experience of your character who's wrestling with hope. What did that feel like?
Me?
Yeah.
I think it's difficult to answer. It shouldn't be, but her willing to live is so strong that now the essence of what I remember from shooting that film, a lot of it is emotionally, a lot of it is about her strong will, and she's just craving life. She wants to live, and that emotion, it's so strong. So that's actually, because it's now, it has it's been a while since we were shooting this, and every time I think about this film and making it, it's that feeling which it's most essential. You know, there's insects that are lying on their back with their arms and legs like this. That was a picture that popped into my mind when you asked.
Well, it's interesting that this movie comes out now. I mean, it's been a year that's felt like a year-long battle with fear and hope. And certainly, you know, inside the hospital, we've been struggling with fear and hope for along this whole year. And much of this movie does take place inside the hospital, in waiting rooms, in doctors' offices. And these are spaces that the average person does not want to be in. And Stellan, your character has to spend a lot of time in waiting rooms and also a lot of time just waiting. What was that like?
Well, it's, I mean, when you're waiting on a film set, it's actually fine, because every take lasts a minute and a half, and then you go in for a coffee and you chat with Andrea, who is suddenly much more happy. So it's not hard. No, I was. It's just I felt throughout this film. I don't say much in the film. I'm just there, and I felt like a spectator in a way. I was just there reacting to whatever happened. But what is essential and what makes the film more interesting is the relationship between the two parents. And that is how you reach. That is interesting, I think. And that is, we're as actors, we're pretty good at creating a truthful relationship in seconds, but it's not always it becomes as rich as it became this time. And I had this constant feeling that we had been living together forever, and we had history together. Even if the scenes weren't about it, we sort of moved as if we were used to moving around each other in the apartment, and it was a very strange experience in that way, and it is tangible in the film, I think.
And I agree, it is. And do you think that's because of the chemistry between you two as actors, or the directorial choices about how to cast these two characters?
It's about the chemistry between the two actors, and that is off the page in a way, because it's not what happens in the lines; it's what happens between the lines. But if you have some directors don't see what happened between the lines, but the Maria is the gold digger who digs up all the stuff that actually happens, the vibrations between people in a room that often gets missed, and then there's no relationship, and then it's just people talking, you know. So it's we produced a hell of a lot of emotions and feelings and gestures. But it was Maria who stitched it together, so it made sense.
So I'm curious, Maria, as a filmmaker, it sounds like there's some element of luck, what chemistry will develop between the people you've chosen to put on stage together. Or when you're casting the people, are you seeking out that chemistry that you think in advance will actually develop between them?
Happily, reality, does things which doesn't give you much of a choice. In this case, I was not able to, cast these two people together. So Stellan was casted first. I had a yes from him, and I knew it was going to be him if he wanted to join to play with me, And as for Andrea, I didn't know who she was. And I casted, many girls, women, from being, 30 to 50 almost, And there she was. And I was not thinking about if she would work with Stellan. I just knew that she would be Anya and she would surprise me. And I just knew it was her. So when they met the very first time, they had known about each other for a couple of months almost. Mm. So that was a very, very exciting moment, I think, for all three of us. So, yeah. You know, you can never know. You can never know. You just have to work on intuition. And for me, falling in love, you know, being curious about someone. And it's, you know, it's irrational. There's no plan. There's no strategy. There's no quick fix. There's no answer to how you find. I think every project has its own rules, you know.
And a certain amount of serendipity, a little bit of luck.
Yes, of course. But I mean, you know, it's luck. Some things are luck, but at the end of the day, it's not luck, because somewhere in your guts, you know what you're looking for, but you don't know how to frame it before you meet it, see it, feel it. So.
Yeah, in the film, the doctors and nurses are actual doctors and nurses, not actors. And as a doctor, I found that very refreshing. In my hospital, Bellevue, where I work, there's a television drama called New Amsterdam that's based on our hospital and is often filmed there. And so we see these actors around, and they are just way too good looking. But the dead giveaway is their hair. It's always perfect. And they're so clearly not doctors because we don't have hair like that at all. So thank you for showing the real deal. And I wonder what made you decide to do that? Because obviously, you know, they're not professional actors and there's a difficulty in that. But what made you decide to choose the real McCoy, Maria?
The same reason as what you were talking about. They're too good looking, and they're too empathetic. Very much that they're too empathetic always, you know. And if it's not a role, you know, which has, it's a one, you know, you meet them once. These doctors, very much. I mean, one you meet twice, you know. But I have been in and out as a patient in the hospitals for many, many years. So I have been like man watching these people, and they're normal people. I mean, they come from they were divorced yesterday, and now they're going to give a bad, deliver a bad diagnosis for someone, you know, and you might be the last person during the day who's going to have that bad message. So you know, and I've been studying them, and the fun part is, you know, you have you know, they wear these white clothes and stuff, which is the same. But then how do you show individuality? It's with your belt, for example, but mostly the shoes, the sneakers. That's where you can tell the character, you know. So I had a lot of fun with that, and I just loved that experience. Actually, I thought it was so refreshing myself, and also for Andrea and Stellan. I remember in the beginning, Stellan, you said that, but do we need to meet these people? It's just one scene, you know. Yes, you do need. It's not for your sake; it's for their sake. They're not going to be starstruck when they're going to have their one scene. You know, they're going to be, you know, moved ahead from that. So when they came on set and the shoots, they had met them, and they became the pros, the doctors, and then Andrea and Stellan became the, you know, amateurs.
Oh, actually,
they owned the hospital. They owned, you know, the lines. They owned, the ways. Yeah.
Actually, Andrea, what was that like? I was imagining that it might be to work with amateur actors or not actors at all, real doctors and nurses, but that could be very frustrating. But it could also be intimidating, or maybe it's both. What did you notice?
I didn't think it was intimidating or frustrating at all. Some of them needed some comfort because they were scared, as we all are, and then it felt good to be the comforter and to say, "Oh, you'll be fine." And because every day I was kind of terrified not to be good enough, but suddenly I could be the mature woman to say, "Oh, you'll be good," which felt really good. And they were very, very different, all of them, right, Maria? They were so different.
You guys were saying all the time, you were saying, when are we going to have a new doctor? It's so exciting.
It's so exciting. But they were so different. And they all needed so different things from Stellan and I. We needed to give them very different things to make them feel comfortable and do their job well.
Well, it's interesting because, breaking bad news, as you mentioned, Maria, that's a role that we doctors play. And you're right. There'll be at 1:00, I might be breaking bad news to someone. Then at 1:30, I'm having a lighthearted visit on something else. And you do have to switch roles. And we often say, "Oh, do our doctors need Stanislavski training in their medical training? Because maybe they would be better in this role switching." And I'm curious how did the doctors and nurses respond? Maria, did they enjoy themselves? Did they find it challenging?
Yeah, some of them found it very challenging because you read the script and you come for the casting and you're chosen and you meet actors, and then comes the day of the shoot, and suddenly they realize that, oh, this part is probably not necessarily very pretty, at the same time that they know so well that this is very realistic, So for some of them, they suddenly woke up and thought, shit, this character is too bad or whatever. So for some of them, yes, but mostly I think they were I think they also see, especially television series where they don't believe, in the doctors or nurses. So I think somewhere deep down there, they also, knew that they had to, be so specific as they are. And it's only one of them, actually, who was part of my original experience. And for her, it was horrible.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was remarkably realistic, especially that you used their actual offices. Although there was one doctor who had a beautiful glass enclosed office with windows that doesn't seem real, but all the other ones with the ugly chairs and the terrible lighting, those seemed quite real.
Actually, all of them were real. Yeah. Even glass building.
Even that beautiful one. Stellan, some years ago, you spoke in an interview about your time in the Royal Dramatic Theatre in Stockholm, where you learned your craft by emulating, or rather stealing, from the experienced actors. But then you said, but I made sure that I stole from a variety of actors so that no one could trace the theft. And I think that such stealing is a noble tradition in all the arts, writing, acting, music. We do it all the time in writing, for sure. And I'm wondering what you would like the upcoming actors to steal from you.
I don't know. I mean, you shouldn't. Every actor has some mannerisms that should absolutely be banned. But if I want them to steal something from me, it's this sort of, don't lie. Whatever you do, don't lie. I mean, you can play any fucking character, but don't lie. You have to find a truth in it. And there was a director, Swedish director, who was very successful in Cannes and Oscar nominations and stuff in the 60s and 70s, Bo Weideberg. And he said to me and a couple of very respected actors when we started a film, and he said, in a Skånish accent, in southern Sweden, and he said so he said, I know I know your tools. I don't want to see your fucking tools when we do this. I want you to be just as good as the amateurs that I have in the film. And I understand completely what it means, because sometimes an amateur can be better. He cannot do something that is not him, but as himself, he can be fantastic. I'm too skilled. I'm trying to be I try to unskill myself all the time and be as good as an amateur and just be there. So steal that from me.
Steal that. I have a question. Actually, one of the audience members brought up the ending. Now, of course, we're not giving away any endings here. We've promised, but the ending. There was a review, Maria, that someone wrote about the movie, saying that you, as a director, seem unconcerned with happy or sad endings or endings at all. And the ending in this film is a little bit uncertain. And I'm wondering, maybe. I'll ask the three of you what the ending meant to you. Andrea, would you like to go first?
What the ending mean to me?
Or how the ending felt, even being part of, acting that ending.
Well, that ending, I hope, felt more technical for me than it does for the audience. That's my answer.
That's your answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I won't elaborate because I don't want to give anything away. Stellan, any thoughts about how the ending felt to you?
I loved it. When I read the first time I read it, it's sort of for a second it transcends the visual realism, of course. But I really loved that ending, and I was so happy that Maria kept it. And then when you do it, it's technical work to do it, but it's I think it's a fantastic ending.
Me too. I love it as well.
Maria, do you want to make any comments about how you came upon this ending?
That ending was there from the very first draft, actually. Well, as the beginning of the movie, I was working more, on it was changing for each draft or whatever. But the ending is what it is because this is a love story and not a cancer story. So to me, the ending is it's not open.
Now, do you ever in your projects start with the ending and then work your way back to the beginning?
Actually, in this movie, yes. But not, quite often, actually. I know where I'm heading. But I don't know how to get there. And I think that's the difference between features and television series, which is like first acts and second acts, but there's no third act. And that's why I think it's very frustrating, because then there's no transcendence in a way, which you don't have an ending where you say, oh shit, that was what the movie was about. This was the story. When you have this ending, then you can, you get glasses on and you watch the whole story with a new insight, which I love with features and, limited series. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm just going to ask one more question. This is to Stellan, because we have largely an American audience here. And this film is in Norwegian, but you are Swedish. And I was curious about the different languages on the set. And it made me think of the hospital where, some doctors speak cardiology and some speak neurology. First of all, can you tell us a bit about how similar or different the Scandinavian languages are? And how you
in writing they're very similar. It's but the pronunciation is different. But Norwegians understand Swedish very well, and I've done 6 films in Norway, and I think Norwegians think that I'm actually a Norwegian film actor with a speech impediment. So it works very well.
So it's like having a New Jersey accent or a Texas accent.
You have accents in the States that are more apart than the Scandinavian languages are.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you to everyone. That was wonderful. I want to wrap with a question that I ask all of my guests about what's happening next, what you're working on now, what we might see in the future. So I think I'll start with Danielle and then move on to Stellan and then Andrea and Maria.
Well, I had a book published right smack in the middle of the pandemic about medical error called When We Do Harm. And so that's coming on paperback. But right now I'm writing a piece for a magazine about how we face vaccine hesitancy and confidence. Because as I see us hopefully trying to get to the end of the pandemic, but we're at this plateau, and I certainly struggle with my patients who don't want the vaccine, how we grapple with this critical issue.
Wow. Stellan?
Interesting.
Well, I have a film coming out Dune, which is a science fiction film, and then right now I'm working on a Star Wars television series that is very well written by Tony Gilroy. So that's why I'm in London right now. You should, talking about the vaccines, I think it's important that we protest against how media handles this, because when they write about AstraZeneca and the blood clots now, people get really scared. They don't tell them that it's more probable that they die from blood clots from COVID than from AstraZeneca's vaccine. It's really strange the way it works. All right, sorry, that was.
Andrea?
Well, I should have been working at the theater, the National Theater in Oslo these days, but both the two shows that I was working with were closed down because of COVID. So I'm reading scripts and searching for the right project. So that's what I'm doing these days.
And is there a plan to resurrect plays once this is all over?
Well, maybe and maybe not, to be honest, because the directors, they have this time slot and then they're moving on to Eastern Europe or States, or so it's not my problem, but it's difficult.
Sure.
Yeah.
Maria?
Yeah, I'm working on several things, which are too premature to talk about. But I'm involved with the Danish project, which is about flyktingkrisen.
Immigrant
crisis from 2015, told in a drama with a satirical undertone, which is very, very difficult to make. So that's what I'm working on, which is close to something which will happen.
Well, congratulations again on such a beautiful film. I'm so proud that we can screen it both online and here in person for a live audience. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful weekend, the screenings, and I congratulate everyone that worked on it. Thank you, Danielle, so much for being here. This was really, really wonderful.
Thank you.
You all.
So I'll just say goodbye to you all. And I'd also like to thank Kim Stim, Brooklyn-based distributor, who's handling Hope, North American, especially Mika Komoto and Ian Stimler. The Bellevue Literary Review team, thanks to them. There we are. And everyone on the Film Forum staff who helped put this event together, especially Adam Walker and Sonia Chung. If you've yet to see Hope, please visit filmforum.org. You can watch that virtually online, or you can buy tickets and visit us in person at West Houston Street. Stay connected to us through our email newsletter and our social media handle, Film Forum NYC, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We will keep you up to date with additions to our virtual cinema roster and upcoming virtual events. Again, thank you for being with us tonight, and we wish you all health and happiness.